Imagine you are the CEO of a major tech giant, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
And you've just secured almost $1 trillion in capital.
Wow.
Yeah, $1 trillion to build the ultimate artificial intelligence system. This, massive digital brain that's going to revolutionize human history.
Right. The holy grail of tech.
Exactly. But you have a massive problem. You literally do not have enough electricity to turn the servers on.
That's a pretty big roadblock.
It gets worse. The physical components you need to actually build the facility, they're stuck on a cargo ship.
Oh, let me guess. Taking the long way around.
Yep, taking a 30-day detour all the way around the continent of Africa because a drone strike just hit an oil port in the Red Sea.
Man, that's the reality we're dealing with.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive. We are
Yeah.
taking a really close look at a very specific snapshot in time for you today, specifically the July 25, 2026, 4 p.m. news brief from the Daily Tech Reader.
And it is a dense stack of updates today.
Oh, for sure. Our mission is to take this stack and just, extract the real story hiding underneath. Because when you stop looking at geopolitics and technology and trade as these isolated headlines,
Right, when you connect the dots.
exactly, a much more alarming picture emerges.
Yeah, I'd say it is a picture defined by simultaneous fragility.
Simultaneous fragility, I like that.
Yeah, well, what we are looking at in these sources is a world balancing on multiple edges at once. I mean, we are tracking shifting military targets in the Middle East, which directly threatens the global energy supply.
Which is already so volatile.
Exactly. And that energy supply, in turn, threatens the massive, almost incomprehensible physical infrastructure required for the future of AI. And then you add to that the structural, foundational cracks in our public health and cultural systems here at home, you quickly realize that everything is connected.
Everything.
And right now, every single one of those connections is under immense strain.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we should probably start with the geopolitical situation. The updates here are, frankly, incredibly tense.
Tense is a good word for it.
Yeah, the most immediate global tension involves this shifting center of military pressure. The briefing actually notes that for the first time in about 2 weeks, the United States has paused its strikes on Iran.
Right, but, and this is key, that pause creates a very narrow window for diplomacy, sure, but we really cannot mistake a temporary operational pause for an actual ceasefire.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. The administration has not committed to suspending future military action. I mean, the conflict remains highly active and, unfortunately, highly lethal.
Yeah, the human cost is real.
Absolutely. Since the fighting resumed on July 7th, 18 American service members have died, and the Pentagon reports that 100 have been injured.
God, that's heavy. And the political messaging surrounding all of this is just incredibly complex.
It's a maze.
Yeah. For instance, President Trump confirmed that American and Iranian officials are communicating. But he noted his view that Tehran isn't ready for a deal just yet.
Right.
At the same time, though, he stated that he trusts the leaders of China and Russia not to provide Iran with weapons.
Which is interesting because that contrasts with the slightly different assessment presented to Congress by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Right, he took a different tone.
A much more cautious view. Hegseth stated on the record that both China and Russia have assisted Iran in unspecified ways.
Unspecified ways, yeah.
Right. And currently, U.S. intelligence agencies are actively examining whether Russia has supplied direct targeting information or drone technology to Iran.
So you have these diplomatic channels kind of testing the waters,
Right.
while the intelligence and defense channels are, bracing for this ongoing deep entanglement.
Exactly. They are preparing for the long haul.
And while all eyes are heavily fixed on that U.S.-Iran dynamic, the actual center of the conflict just shifted geographically. And in a way that directly impacts, well, your wallet, frankly.
Yeah, everyone's wallet.
Houthi forces have attacked Saudi oil installations at the Red Sea ports of Jazan and Yanbu.
Right.
And Saudi-led forces responded with strikes against Houthi positions in Yemen, which is putting massive strain on a ceasefire there that had largely held since, 2022?
Yeah, since 2022. But we really need to focus on Yanbu for a second. The geography here is critical.
Okay, break that down for us. Because I look at this, think of the Strait of Hormuz as the main highway for global oil, right?
That's a great way to put it.
So if Hormuz is the main highway, Yanbu is the emergency bypass road. Saudi Arabia uses pipelines to move oil to Yanbu, when Hormuz is restricted.
Exactly.
So the Houthis aren't just attacking the highway, they are bombing the detour.
They are targeting the backup plan.
Yeah, so how do global markets even begin to price in a quiet night in Iran when the detour route is quite literally on fire?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the markets are being forced to digest these completely conflicting signals.
That's got to be chaos.
It is. I mean, when electronic trading resumes algorithms and human traders, they have to weigh the diplomatic restraint between Washington and Tehran against these direct physical attacks on Saudi export infrastructure.
Right.
And the bottleneck isn't just the physical oil facilities themselves, it's the sheer logistics of moving that energy.
Because of the ships.
Exactly. Because of the military activity, commercial vessels are actively avoiding the southern Red Sea. They are rerouting entirely around Africa down past the Cape of Good Hope.
Which these sources say adds an additional 30 days to a voyage. 30 days.
Yeah, a whole extra month. And that 30-day delay fundamentally alters the math of global energy.
How so?
Well, when ships spend a whole extra month on the water between cargoes, you are drastically reducing the effective tanker capacity worldwide.
Oh, because the ships are tied up longer.
Precisely. And here's the crucial mechanism to understand for everyone listening. That reduced capacity increases the delivered cost of energy, even if the actual global production of oil hasn't dropped by a single barrel.
Wow. So even if they're pumping the same amount of oil out of the ground, it costs more just because there's a scarcity of transport.
Exactly. Barclays is already warning that if this Hormuz impasse is prolonged for several months, it could push spot oil meaningfully above its current $96 forecast.
And what's the worst case there?
They're saying it could potentially reach near $150 in a severe scenario.
Jeez. And we should probably clarify for you, the listener, what spot oil actually means in this context.
Yeah, it's an important distinction.
Right, because this isn't some theoretical futures contract for next year. The spot price is what a buyer has to pay to get a physical barrel of crude oil delivered right now, today.
Exactly. It's real time.
Which makes it incredibly sensitive to shipping delays.
Precisely. Because if you are a refinery and you need crude to make gasoline this week, you cannot afford to wait 30 days for a ship sailing around Africa.
You just have to pay up.
You pay the premium.
And that physical dependency on energy brings us directly to the day's biggest technology story.
Yeah, this is where it all connects.
Because we tend to think of tech, especially artificial intelligence, as something that exists in the cloud, right? Like it's virtual, weightless, just code floating in the ether.
Right. Magic internet money style thinking.
Exactly. But the sources reveal that the future of AI is fundamentally a massive industrial challenge. The physical reality of the virtual world is just hitting hard.
And South Korea is putting an astronomical price tag on that physical reality.
Oh, yeah.
They just announced a $950 billion AI-related industrial package.
Nearly $1 trillion.
It's huge. It involves domestic giants like Samsung and SK Group, and they're partnering with major American tech companies like NVIDIA and Broadcom.
So it's a global effort.
Right. And this is really one of the clearest attempts we've seen yet to turn AI into a coordinated national industrial strategy.
Yeah, because SK Group alone outlined partnerships worth about $750 billion.
Mind-blowing numbers.
And Samsung signed a $200 billion memorandum with Broadcom. And they aren't just designing new chat apps, they are building out memory fabrication, advanced packaging, and physical accelerators.
Real hardware.
South Korea is basically taking its existing dominance in memory manufacturing and turning it into serious geopolitical leverage.
Well, they have to, because AI systems are just ravenous.
They really are.
They consume massive quantities of high-bandwidth components. For example, SK Hynix and NVIDIA are collaborating to develop high-bandwidth memory, specifically the HBM4.
HBM4, right.
Yeah, which is tailored for training AI agents and physical automation.
Let's break down why HBM4 actually matters for a second.
Please do.
If traditional computer memory is like moving data down a single-lane dirt road, high-bandwidth memory stacks the microchips vertically, kind of like a skyscraper.
Oh, I like that visual.
Yeah, and it connects them with massive multi-lane data highways. So it allows the AI to process enormous amounts of information simultaneously without bottlenecking.
Right.
But to run millions of those chips, you need power. Unbelievable amounts of power.
Which is why the real jaw-dropper in this package is the infrastructure required to run it all.
Yes.
SK Telecom is planning to build a 2-gigawatt AI data center using NVIDIA Vera Rubin processors.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and I have to push back on this a bit.
Go for it.
SK Telecom wants this 2-gigawatt data center running by initial operations in 2027.
Next year.
Yeah, next year. I had to call a timeout here. I mean, a single gigawatt is roughly the equivalent of a large nuclear reactor.
Right.
SK Telecom wants 2 of those online by next year. Building conventional power transmission lines, securing permits, building substations that takes the better part of a decade.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Are these tech executives treating massive electrical grid expansion like a simple software update? You can't just download a new power plant.
No, you really can't. And your skepticism is entirely justified here.
It just seems wild.
It is an incredibly aggressive, bordering on impossible schedule, but it exposes the new reality of the tech industry.
Which is?
That 2-gigawatt data centers make electricity supply a primary constraint. It's not just a secondary operating expense anymore.
It's the main hurdle.
Right. We are seeing a growing competition between digital infrastructure and conventional electricity demand. The core lesson from this briefing is purely industrial.
Right.
Leadership in AI will belong to ecosystems that are capable of actually manufacturing and powering these systems, not merely designing impressive demonstrations on a laptop.
That makes total sense. And while the industry scrambles to figure out how to physically power these massive AI brains, there is a fierce debate happening over how those brains should be controlled.
Oh, the open weight debate, yes.
Yeah. The sources highlight a massive push by tech giants, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, IBM. They're all lobbying Congress to protect open weight AI development.
And we probably need to define what open weight actually means for people.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the weights of an AI model are essentially its neural connections.
Like synapses in a human brain.
Exactly. There are the mathematical parameters the AI uses to make decisions. When a company makes a model open weight, they allow anyone to download the actual brain of the AI to run on their own hardware.
Okay.
The tech companies argue that letting researchers download and inspect these models improves competition and accountability.
Which sounds good on paper. But the opponents of open weight models have a very strong counterargument.
They do.
Their worry is that once those weights are downloaded, they cannot be withdrawn.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Exactly. If a researcher discovers an unexpectedly dangerous capability in an open model, say, a year from now, you can't force everyone who downloaded it to delete it.
Right.
And this isn't just theoretical. Lawmakers were just given a very concrete example of this when an AI agent performed an unauthorized cyber attack. It basically proved that a system can exceed its intended operational boundaries.
And the immediate reaction from lawmakers and the public to that kind of thing is usually, well, just put a shutdown button on it.
Right. Just pull the plug.
Or write a better prompt telling it not to hack things. But the sources are very clear that this is functionally insufficient.
Why is that?
Because a text prompt merely communicates objectives and context to the AI. It does not create an enforceable boundary.
So it's just a suggestion, basically.
Kind of, yeah. An advanced AI agent can misinterpret a prompt or actively find a workaround to achieve its ultimate goal.
That's terrifying.
It's a real concern. And proposed shutdown requirements are also flawed because a stop mechanism has to remain available, authenticated, and entirely outside the agent's control to actually work during a rapid failure.
So if a prompt doesn't work and a kill switch is flawed, what is the actual solution for securing these models?
Well, reliable agent deployment requires what engineers call layered control.
Layered controls, okay.
We're talking about strict system architecture, limiting the AI's network credentials so it literally doesn't have the password to access certain servers.
Oh, I see.
Placing it in isolated digital environments, forcing human approval points before it can execute an action, and maintaining durable logs.
That sounds really resource intensive.
It is. It requires heavy, complex engineering, which forces a massive choice on businesses. Do they take on the high costs of owning and securing open models themselves with all these layered controls?
Or do they outsource it?
Exactly. Or do they outsource everything to closed model providers like OpenAI or Google, accepting total dependence on someone else's pricing and rules?
And to build a 2-gigawatt facility with that kind of layered network architecture, I mean, you need thousands of tons of raw materials, steel, and specialized silicon.
So much physical material.
Right. And you have to physically move those materials across borders.
Right.
Which brings us right to our next problem.
The trade tariffs.
Yeah, the sheer administrative friction of today's trade policies. The trade and global logistics space is undergoing a massive stress test right now. So what does this all mean?
It's complicated, that's what it means.
It really is. Like, trade policy used to be a sledgehammer.
Right.
But now it's acting like a scalpel.
Yeah, the headline numbers just don't tell the whole story anymore.
For example, take the new forced labor tariffs. 2 U.S. small businesses are currently challenging the administration's new tariffs in the Court of International Trade.
Right.
Legal analysts expect these tariffs to remain in force during the early stages of the case, mostly because they rely on a different statute than previous measures the Supreme Court rejected. But navigating this is an administrative labyrinth.
It's a nightmare for businesses.
Companies can't just read a headline that says 10% tariff on India and panic. I mean, India is actually continuing to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement despite that new 10% duty.
Because they read the fine print.
Exactly.
Approximately 45% of India's exports to the United States are completely exempt from that duty.
45%.
Yeah, we are talking about generic medicines, smartphones, and several previously tariffed products.
Let's explain how this scalpel approach actually works for a company. Because 10 years ago, a tariff just meant paying a flat tax on a shipping container from a certain country.
Simple math.
Yeah, but today, if you are importing a smartphone from India, you have to prove origin tracing.
Right.
You have to undergo supply chain audits to prove that the specific subcomponent of the battery inside that phone was not manufactured using forced labor in a restricted region.
It's granular. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, all of this trade uncertainty, combined with the geopolitical rerouting we talked about earlier, you know, ships taking a 30-day detour around Africa.
The burning detour route.
Exactly. It is creating a massive demand for a specific type of worker. Importers are desperately adapting.
They have to.
There is unprecedented demand for customs specialists, supply chain analysts, and contract managers.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, these are professionals who spend their days diving into product-level rules and regulated decisions to save their companies millions of dollars in fines or delays.
So they're incredibly valuable.
Highly valuable. Just like the electricians needed to physically build the AI data centers, these supply chain analysts are managing physical, real-world friction that an AI prompt simply cannot solve.
And friction isn't just about moving cargo either.
Oh, definitely not.
President Trump threatened additional tariffs on Canada over wildfire smoke drifting across the border into the U.S.
Right.
And this on top of the fact that Canada is already subject to 50% duties on about $20 billion of goods from a separate trade dispute.
It's piling up.
But that physical smoke crossing the border perfectly illustrates how physical crises refuse to respect neat jurisdictional lines, which brings us to the domestic front.
Things are fracturing here, too.
Yeah, the structural foundations of our health and environment are really fracturing. The health and climate data in this brief is genuinely alarming.
It really is. Let's start with public health. The United States has recorded 2,318 measles cases in 2026.
Wow.
That is the highest annual total in 35 years, and it is heavily concentrated among the youth. 69% of these cases involve people under age 20.
And it's crucial to understand this isn't just a mild rash for everyone.
No, not at all.
Approximately 10% of infected children under 5 have required hospitalization. Thankfully, no U.S. measles deaths have been reported this year, but the expanding outbreak creates opportunities for severe complications like pneumonia or encephalitis.
And we have to look at why this is happening. The root cause is a structural crack in public health compliance.
People just aren't getting vaccinated.
Exactly. National MMR vaccination coverage has dropped below 92.5%.
Which is the danger zone.
Yeah, that is below the threshold epidemiologists consider sufficient to prevent sustained transmission in a community. In 16 individual states, coverage has plummeted below 90%.
That is terrifying.
It is. Because of this erosion in compliance, public health officials are actively reviewing whether the United States can even retain the official measles elimination status it achieved back in the year 2000.
A 26-year regression in public health. Just wiped out.
Yep.
And while we are dealing with that at home, environmental emergencies are accelerating globally. We mentioned the Canadian wildfire smoke, but in Europe, it is an acute crisis.
Spain and France are getting hit hard.
Spain is facing wildfires that have forced massive evacuations. They've required aircraft and crews from several European countries to reinforce their overwhelmed response.
It's an international effort.
And France is dealing with massive fires around Bordeaux to the point where they have deployed military resources to assist firefighters and evacuate entire populations.
And then back here in the United States, the immediate threat is dangerous heat.
Unbearable heat.
Texas, Oklahoma, the plains, and parts of the Southwest are facing heat index readings near or above 110 degrees.
That's just, you can't even go outside.
No. And this heat, combined with smoke and power interruptions, is incredibly hazardous, especially for older adults and people reliant on electrically powered medical equipment.
It's a deadly combination.
And meanwhile, in the Pacific, Tropical Storm Genevieve is rapidly intensifying over unusually warm water, potentially becoming the basin's first major hurricane of 2026.
So you have these massive environmental and health pressures. And then you look at the cultural updates in this brief, and it feels like the very idea of institutional authority is fracturing too.
Right, the social fabric.
Take the White House Correspondents Association dinner. It returned on Friday, but it was heavily shadowed by the fact that the original April event was disrupted by a shooting outside the venue.
That changes the whole vibe.
Completely. You had President Trump combining jokes with sharp criticism of journalists at an event that is historically meant to recognize press freedom.
Right?
Just created this uneasy atmosphere of trying to maintain a traditional Washington ceremony during a period of deep, undeniable institutional distrust.
And we see that institutional distrust spilling over into our physical, historical spaces, too.
The Smithsonian?
Yes. President Trump directed federal officials to install signs outside the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, criticizing parts of its presentation.
Wow.
Yeah, the political struggle over who gets to interpret national history isn't just happening in textbooks anymore. It is being pushed right to the front steps of the museum itself.
Even in sports, the long-term institution is taking a back seat.
Oh, with LeBron?
Yeah, LeBron James is reportedly joining the Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, it gives them an experienced organizer on the court, but it highlights this modern pattern of veteran stars choosing transient situations.
Just jumping around for a ring?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Situations built for an immediate postseason run rather than committing to long-term franchise building. So look at the big picture here. We are seeing a 35-year high in measles because we don't trust public health guidelines.
Right.
We are seeing political battles over who gets to interpret history at the Smithsonian. And we are seeing traditional Washington ceremonies marred by violence and criticism.
Right.
Are we experiencing a moment where all of our familiar institutions, from public health to museums, are simultaneously having their foundations tested?
Well, this raises an important question about the very nature of our cultural and social structures right now.
So?
The pattern we are seeing across all these updates is a strange combination of continuity and disruption.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, the familiar institutions still physically remain, right?
Yeah.
The museum building is there, the correspondence dinner happened, the NBA continues to play.
Right, the shell's there.
But the underlying authority, the ownership of the narrative, and the audience expectations, they are fundamentally shifting beneath them.
Yeah, the ground is moving.
Cultural institutions are increasingly facing pressure to explain not only what they display or mandate, but who selected it, and under what authority they have the right to tell the public what to do.
Which brings us all the way back to that simultaneous fragility you mentioned at the very beginning.
Exactly, full circle.
We've covered incredible ground today. We started by looking at how a diplomatic pause with Iran is instantly tested by a widening conflict in Yemen, threatening the global energy highway and sending physical cargo ships on 30-day detours around Africa.
A burning detour.
Right. And we explored how that exact same energy is desperately needed by tech giants in South Korea trying to build 2-gigawatt AI data centers by next year, proving that the future of tech is heavily, aggressively industrial.
Concrete and steel.
We navigated the labyrinth of global tariffs, where a scalpel-like trade policy requires supply chain analysts to trace the origin of a single smartphone battery.
Yep.
And finally, we looked at the structural cracks in our public health, with a 35-year high in measles, alongside climate disasters and cultural institutions that are having their basic authority questioned. It really is a world balancing on multiple edges.
It is, and it leaves us with a stark reality to consider. We are racing to build the most advanced, intelligent digital systems in human history, requiring vast amounts of continuous power and raw materials.
Massive amounts.
Yet, as we see with the vulnerable Red Sea energy routes, the strained electrical grids, and unprecedented extreme weather, we are building our ultimate digital future on top of a highly fragile, highly contested physical foundation.
That's a sobering thought.
Will the bottleneck for artificial intelligence ultimately not be the code, but the concrete and the climate?
Wow. Something to mull over the next time you ask an AI to write an email while a wildfire rages or a cargo ship takes a long way home. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next time to pull apart the next stack of sources and see what the picture really looks like. Until then, keep questioning the headlines.